Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Morning People, the podcast for everybody who doesn't do grief right. I'm Nina, and this sounds very rushed. I don't know why. Today I sit down with Wade Simmons, filmmaker, funeral service provider, and former wrestler. And we just kind of talk. It's I was just editing this episode and I realized I'm just going to keep it how it is. The only thing I will say is this, like my sound is a little bit weird. For some reason on Zoom, the person on the other end sounds fine and then I sound muffled or weird. And I'm not quite sure how to fix that yet, but I digress. Yeah, I really love this conversation. I really appreciate Wade's sincerity and compassion and love that he carries with him. And I think it was really nice to kind of connect with somebody like that because I see a lot of who I am in that. He actually flips the script on me a little bit and he he asked me like how I got into teaching. And then I kind of go off on a tangent about like how much I appreciate working with children and stuff. Anyways, it's a really, really good episode, and I hope you like this one because I really enjoyed it, and I hope Wade is willing and coming back anytime. Okay, thank you. Goodbye.
Sure. My name is Wade Simmons. I'm from Chicago. I'm a funeral service worker. I did graduate from Worsham College of Mortuary Science in 2018. That was a bit of a challenge, but I'll talk about that later. I'm also a filmmaker of almost 9 years, and I also train for professional wrestling too. I did it as a hobby, so a jack of all trades and a master at none of them.
You know what? I have ADHD, so I feel that. I really think that the wrestling thing was so cool. Like I'm a kid of the 80s, so I was into wrestling as a child, and I thought that that part was really cool. Like you have so many different experiences in life and they're all like so different than the other one. Like I understand wrestling and filmmaking kind of go together and I understand filmmaking and being in the death space kind of go together, but the wrestling and the funeral service
Well, I mean,
is just
I mean, Paul Bearer did it as well, so
there was the Undertaker and stuff too. So I guess that makes a little bit more sense when you think of it that way. Um, how did you get into like funeral work?
So what happened was, as a child, I always wanted to be a mortician. I said I was going to do two things. I was going to be a funeral director and a filmmaker. And so when I was in high school, my teacher, Miss Anderson, we had did this thing where like we were doing like this thing where you like pick your careers. And I remember like, telling her like what I wanted to do. And she actually called one of the funeral home owners and said, I got a young man that wants to be a mortician. Can you take him on or whatever? And the owner of the funeral home said, tell him to get a gold tie, white shirt, black suit. And I started working for them in high school. And it ended up, turning into me working for them for 13 years, which is crazy because that was the very same funeral home that buried my grandfather when I was 13 years old. So
Wow.
it's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny how things come full circle like that sometimes.
Yeah, but I love it. To me, it's a joy. It's an honor to serve. And being in the funeral business, like like any job, you never know what your day gonna be like. But in that business, it's like you never know what to expect. So you
Mhm.
just have to always be prepared to serve. That's why like everybody's like, can you book this date and this date? And I'm like, things come up. So you never know. Like
Yeah.
the other day, we had a funeral home that called us to go to Iowa to bring a loved one into their care. So, I wasn't
Wow.
expecting to have to do that, but it's always my honor to serve.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's one thing that I'm noticing. The deeper into the grief community I get, the the more like beauty you find in it. And a lot of people get kind of standoffish when they because I got into this, I took a death doula course. And my whole thing is I've always been kind of like a creepy weirdo, like I like the dark, you know, kind of Halloweeny death vibes, but I've always been terrified of death. And I'm of the believer where the more fear you have around something, the more you should learn about it. So I was like, okay, I'll go into death doula work and kind of be around it a little bit more. And people, like I said, they kind of go like, well, why would you want to do that? And it's like there is so much love and joy and beauty in death. And I think that a lot of people don't see that side of it, and
Yeah.
we have people like you out there who are honoring family members and people who meant something to others, and you put your passion and your love and your compassion into that. And it's such a it's a strange way to look at it, bringing people together, but it really does have that power. And I think that
Yeah.
that's really awesome,
Yeah,
and a lot of people. Yeah.
I was just talking to one of my fellow former classmates from mortuary school. We talk just about every day. And one of our teachers from mortuary college, Mr. Kowalski, he made his transition. He was, I believe, 76 years old. It kind of caught us off guard because, but that's the one thing about death, right? Like a lot of times we make plans, but you never know. Like it's a disruptor,
Mhm.
so it's just you have to cherish people while you have the opportunity. That's why I always try to let people know that I love them and appreciate them. And also, I'm one of those people, just like I did you. Like if I see somebody doing something that I like, I'm one of the people that's gonna reach out and just connect with you and just, say, hey, I think you're wonderful. I like what you're doing because I think it's important to give people their flowers while they can smell them. If
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
good term, yeah.
I'm gonna have to use that one. I like it. Thank you. And now I have a new term. Um, have you ever I don't know if this is like a weird question, but again, because I'm a weirdo. Have you ever brought like not have you ever had the deaf side and the film side come together? Like, have you ever explored that? Like,
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah?
a lot of times when I worked at the funeral home that I used to full time, I used to help them with some of the media. So every now and then I would get a family like, well, can you put together like a slide presentation for us or whatever?
Mm.
But only if they ask. Like I didn't
Yeah.
only like me, I'm one of those people where I don't push myself or my services off on anybody. If they want to, fine. If not,
Mhm.
but I'm just willing to help, however they need it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
honestly, a lot of people have told me like to consider like, doing like more documentaries about,
Mhm.
different people or whatever, but I don't know, I do love documentaries a lot.
Me too. I love documentaries. It's like almost like a passion of mine, and that's another reason why I love doing this so much is I really like connecting with people, and I really love listening to people's stories because I find that especially in today's political climate, there's so much that separates us,
Yeah,
and connecting with people and hearing their stories and understanding that there's people behind it. There's actual
absolutely.
people behind it, and it's just such a good way to see a little bit into somebody else's world who you otherwise would have
Absolutely.
no idea was out there, right? And
Yeah.
I just think that that's like a gift, and to be someone who could actually make one is amazing.
Well, that's actually my motto that God gave me is that everybody is somebody. Because I feel like in life, we look at people because sometimes they might be doing things on a bigger scale. But honestly, people are people. No matter who you are, no matter what your occupation is, unemployed, employed, or whatever your religious beliefs or political beliefs, people are people. And I think that, it's a good thing to like have patience with people and kind of try to get to know people before judging them.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, a lot of times in the world, sometimes we can be very quick to pass judgment on other people, but you really can't judge
Yeah,
somebody that you really don't know. And so to
absolutely.
me, I just, like celebrating everybody because again, everybody is somebody to me. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter who a person is, everybody's important.
Mhm. 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 Yeah, and it's a shame that a lot of people don't. don't see that, right? And I had a guest on who was very faith-based, and I'm not a religious person, and they weren't sure if they would be able to talk about that on my podcast. And I said, this is my space and I hold space for everybody. And
Yeah,
I grief transcends all of that, because it doesn't
absolutely.
matter who you are or what you believe. We all feel that pain when we lose somebody that's important to us. So
Yeah,
I just really like, now, of course, because I am a political loudmouth, I do have my limits. Like, I'm not going to platform someone I don't align with, right? But like, if you're good people, I don't care about your faith or your lack of faith or your experience in life or your background. Like, we are all here for the purpose of holding space with each other and for each other.
yeah,
And
that's true.
I really feel like we need a lot more of that right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah,
right?
because everybody, like you said, to your point, everybody does experience grief. And it's one of those things where like you never really truly get over somebody transitioning that you cared about or that you knew. Every death is different.
Mhm.
Every, and the thing is like, it's something that we often never know when it's coming. And so, that's why I say the only thing that we can do is love and appreciate people, while we have them. And just, like I said, I thank God for everybody. Like nobody that ever came into my life is somebody that I forget about. Like I literally, as much as I can retain, I often think of everybody because again, everybody is somebody to me. So
Yep.
that's
I'm the exact same way. Like, I'll think about some person I had a very minimal connection with in a grocery store 10 years ago. And, I'll be like, I wonder how they're doing. Right?
yeah.
Like, I'm a people person. I love connecting with people so much. And everybody that I meet adds to my story, right? No
Yeah.
matter if it was brief or if it was, we've been friends for 30 years. Like, I cherish every interaction that I have. I really, truly do. And I just think that that's like, when you're that kind of person, being in the field that you're in is so much more meaningful because you're not just helping these people through their grief, you're truly carrying them with you.
Yeah. It's a really eye-open experience, and like I said, it's an honor to serve in it because, like I said, you never know what type of assignment you're gonna be sent on, so you just have to always be willing and ready to serve. Like I said, I remember the first time that I started doing removals full time or transfers, I got a call on Mother's Day, I got a call on Father's Day, and I mean, we're used to it though because in the funeral business, there are no holidays. There are some people who maybe take holidays off, but if you love what you do and your heart is in it, then you just make yourself available to serve.
Yep. Yep. Does it ever like really impact like your psyche? Like, do you ever have days where you're just like holding too much of it? Like, do you do you go to therapy? Do you have your own kind of like rituals to deal with that, or are you able to
Uh,
kind of honor
well,
it
I,
but also
well,
separate it?
I do a lot of praying. I talk to
Yeah.
God and I do a lot of praying, but other than that, not really.
Yeah.
Because to me, like I take the side of it as like to just cherish every moment. Of
Mhm.
course, every day of our life is not perfect. I don't care whether people got money or don't got money. Life is not always glitz and glamour all the time. That's reality. But it does teach me to be grateful and thankful and to, just reach out and check on people. Like I'm not shy from reaching out to people or just saying, "Hey, how you doing?" Because again, like it's just so important to check in on people, because
Mhm.
we never really know.
Yeah. 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 Does it ever like impact you more than you think it's going to? Like, do you think like, I've got this one, it's gonna be a good day, and then at
You
the
know
end of the
what?
day you just like break down?
I'm gonna be honest. There were probably two, well, three that I can remember, and I'll share all three of them with you. The first one, I was a little younger. There was a young lady, she had just got a scholarship, a basketball scholarship to go to college, and she died in an accident. And I didn't know this young lady, but I remember at the time I don't know how many years I was in the business, but I don't even think I had went to school for it just yet. And I remember we went to the church and the funeral director was there and we went to help assist to set up the service. And while we were setting up the flowers, when the family like walked in and I heard the mother just screaming, it really hit me. And I went home and I just was not feeling it that day. And it was just like, it just made me imagine just to be a parent and to have to go through something like that. Like that is probably
Yeah.
heartbreaking and devastating, not probably it is.
Yeah.
And so, that's one day that stuck with me. But then there was another situation where a mother came to the funeral home and she had two twin daughters. And something happened where it was involving the police or something where I don't know if it was like a wrongful death or whatever. I don't know all the ins and outs of what happened, but I do know that it was something like about the police was chasing them in the car or something like that. And it was, and I don't know all the details, but I know when the mother came in and just told us the story about what happened, it just was heartbreaking, you
Yeah.
know. It was hard. I can't give all details, but
Oh, no,
it's it
absolutely.
was it was very heartbreaking and
Yeah.
devastating. And it was very odd but she did say this. She said for some reason, like, their dog just kept barking that day. Like,
Really?
I don't know, like she said, the dog just kept barking or something. Like, I don't know if she was saying like the dog was like by the daughter's room and just was barking or whatever, but I don't know. They do say animals can sense things,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
But
Yep.
then there was another situation though where I was talking to a gentleman and it was for his mother's service. 3 weeks later, we were setting up the chapel. I opened up the casket. It was the guy that I was talking to 3 weeks, yeah, ago. And
Wow.
I'm like, wow. And when they told me what happened, they said he had like a brain aneurysm. And so he never recovered from it. But yeah, that really kind of shook me up. But yeah, it's just one of those things that just really just makes you really just stop to just appreciate life. And that's why sometimes even me, like when it comes to social media, I look for a lot of nice and positive things or uplifting things, but unfortunately, you get bombarded with so much stuff, and sometimes you
Mhm.
look on there and you see so much death.
Yeah.
And it's just I don't know. That's why, like to me, I try to more so dwell in a more uplifting space and just not try to be so negative because there's a lot of people just bickering and arguing back and forth. I don't like this person. I don't
Yeah.
like this race. Or I don't like, but all of that is silly because, all of us are people. And to be
Yeah.
honest with you, the world is not a bad place. It only becomes bad and wicked when we give room to those things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. My block list, I'm surprised I'm still able to block people on social media because I see a comment I do not like and I immediately block them. I'm like, I don't even want to see it. I don't want to give any kind of space to that, like I just what you said about the last experience with the mother and then the son, like in those moments, like you must just feel like life is wild.
That's why, like in the death care industry, it bothers me sometimes when I see like some people in the industry who maybe not be so kind to each other. Because
Mhm.
to me, I'm like, how can you bury people every day? Go on transfers and removals just about every day, sit with crime families every day and just not get along. Now, don't get me wrong, we are human. Sometimes we might have different ways of doing things, but at the end of the day, I don't ever want to live my life disgruntled or mad at anybody. That's not to say that, we agree with everything, but like, come on,
Mhm.
like I
Mhm.
just I
Yeah.
just I just, that's kind of like a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and especially in a community that's supposed to be helping others through such difficult times to still come into your day with these preconceived notions or you know narrow-minded views of communities or people or backgrounds.
And my whole thing is that, like I said, everybody is somebody, and that is something that I really again believe. And I know I keep saying that, but it's because I believe it. Because a lot of times in this world we live in, people look down on people. Sometimes some people look down on people because of status or, but anybody's life circumstances can change for better or worse. So I just think it's just a good thing to just treat people right. Period. that's the best advice I could give, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we need so much more of that right now. I feel like I've been saying that for years. Nothing's ever getting better,
Yeah,
you
well, but
know?
it's up to all of us individually to embrace love and have the right mindset about it because again,
Mm,
we only become what we give room to. So if we give room to hatred and to, respect of a person or things like that, then that's what we become. But if we, realize that everybody is somebody that hurts and feels and then we can all learn to treat each other a little bit better, at least a
yeah.
little bit.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Exactly. Wow. Wow. Sorry, I just need a sip of my coffee. I'll edit this
It's
part out. Don't
okay.
worry. 'Cause I told you
I
it was
got
gonna
some
get
too.
awkward. Okay, cool. Cheers. I'll probably actually keep that in because it was really cute. Anyways, what made you want to pursue this? Like, what made you like you just always knew?
Well, yeah, so basically when I don't remember how old I was, but we were in Kansas City, I
Mhm.
believe, and I was swimming and I actually started drowning. And I remember as a child saying like I saw angels in the water fighting and stuff like that. But after that, it always kinda made me a little curious, so, after that, I'm just like, "You know what? I think over time, like, I wanna be a funeral director," and, people like, "You wanna do what?" Like
Yeah.
like I remember somebody that's a real close family friend, like, I thought Wade woulda just stuck with maybe being in photography or something, like, more attention, like, "Why? Why do you want" but it's something that I always cared about doing, and so I pursued it, and don't get me wrong, like, the schooling for it was very tough. I'm not ashamed to say that because I did a lot of praying, and all that stuff and studying and all that stuff, but it was very hard. But I got through it by the grace of God and, finally got the degree and then went and sat for my boards, and now in Illinois I'm finishing up my internship, which I've been kind of doing it at my own pace, to be honest with you, because I'm doing so many other things. But I'm also in the process of getting licensed in California. So in California, I'm right now what you call a funeral arranger. So every state is it's kind of tricky because every state is different. So, this state might have the board and then this test and then this state got something different. So yeah, so I'm gonna be fully licensed in California soon, God willing. So I'm excited about that.
Wow.
I love Chicago. I love Illinois. It's my birthplace, but I'm of the belief that just because you was born somewhere don't mean you have to spend your whole life there.
Yeah.
It's a big world out here.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. That's awesome. I think that's great. I like how I like meeting people who aren't scared to do something different and to take a risk, you know? We get so wrapped up in success and money and fear of failing and I love meeting somebody who has that same sense, like every state is different in your field and you're just doing it anyways. And like to have that feeling within you to just be like, I don't want to stay here.
Yeah,
There's
well,
so much more out there.
and I think that sometimes, some people embrace the thought that, well, you wanna have, longevity at a place, and that's understandable too, but the truth be told, it's like, life is a journey, and to be honest with you, a lot of people focus on the destination. I think that's where we make our mistake because destinations are even temporary, but the
Mhm.
journey is the ongoing process that continues. And so to me, I borrowed this quote from my good friend John from Pro Wrestling. John is my brother. He always used to say, "Look, I'm enjoying the journey. I'm not worried about the destination because a lot of times people think that once you reach this pinnacle, like I've arrived, but people are finding life quickly that, success and highs and lows are, life is a continuous journey. So sometimes you just have to be thankful. Like I'm always thankful to God for, everything that He has blessed me and allowed me to do. But I never get caught up in just worrying about a destination because I understand that circumstances and things change and things in life come up that we don't anticipate. Like, last year, my grandfather, I was actually kind of at a point back in 2024, I was living in Missouri and in Illinois. So I was kind of coming back and forth a little bit. And that was a pretty cool adventure because I was traveling more that year than I was back home in Illinois. But my grandfather ended up getting sick. So I came back to Chicago, and then my grandfather, he ended up making his transition like right at the beginning of January of 2025. And so I've been back ever since, kind of, helping my grandmother and, taking calls here and there when I get them. And I also had the privilege of working on Chicago PD season 13. That number keeps coming up, right?
Wow.
So that was pretty cool, just being an extra and all that. But
Yeah.
yeah, but we got to put it like this. Time is something that does not wait for any of us. So I'm grateful for what I have done. But the truth be told, nobody's ever stuck. Like, we can't focus so much on just thinking we've been somewhere and we just arrived. Like, no, life is a continuous journey. So to me, it's just time to move on. And so, like, and that's why, like, when I left the funeral home that I worked at full time, as I told you, I ended up getting diagnosed with a disorder called spasmodic dysphonia, where if people look up some of the older podcasts I did, my voice, I sound like a completely different person because my voice used to strain. But when I came home and prayed and I left the funeral home, God healed my voice. And I never, you know, only time it does happen again if I get stressed. But
Yeah.
when I eliminated that stress, some other doors opened up. Now, I'm not gonna say that it's been, the easiest journey because to be getting paid every week like that and to, you know, get that constant money coming in like that, but for your health reasons, you have to make adjustments. And
Mhm,
so you
mhm.
gotta so to me, that's why I say that it's more of a journey than it is a destination because things can change and circumstance. Look, we see companies all the time go out of business or close down or sell or, not just any business, people getting laid off with all the madness going on right now. So you have to always just trust the process.
Yeah,
And if you get a feeling telling you to move or do something, go with it.
yeah,
That's what I would
yeah.
say. I'm no expert, but that's what I would do. I'm not telling nobody else to do it, but that's what I would do.
It's not your job. I really, really resonate with like that resonates with me because I told you briefly that I'm kind of navigating chronic illness myself and being in childcare for 15 years, the toll it takes on you physically and mentally is huge. And I think that a lot of people don't see that. They think you just paint and do puzzles all day, but it's a lot. And I actually had to take a year off. I start full-time work on Monday.
Nice.
So I've taken a year off and, it was one of the scariest things I've ever had to do. Then I started doing this and I'm like, what am I even doing? But any kind of change is scary.
Yeah.
We're so wrapped up in comfort and convenience and the thought of losing all of that is terrifying, but I respect so much somebody who's just like, "I'm just gonna try," you know?
Well, yeah, because life has a way of pushing you to where you're supposed to be, and
Yes.
I believe that. I stand on that. That's just something that I totally believe in. And so, to be honest with you, we all have our comfort zone, but I think that everybody's gonna have an experience in life where things are gonna change, and it's not always comfortable, but it's necessary. And so that's why, like I said, I am very excited, happy. I don't regret anything. Like I said, I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's been easy because it can be up and down. I'm not swimming in money. I can tell you that. But
Nobody is.
but for the most part, I'm grateful. Like I said, I,
Yeah.
I I thank God for every day of my life. And I have what I need. May not
Yeah.
be everything I want, but I have what I need. So I'm
Well,
thankful for that.
the other thing too is when I call myself a helper. Like, I'm a helper by nature, and when you are the kind of person who, whether it's being called to serve others or you call yourself a helper. I'm pretty spiritual. I'm not religious, but I definitely believe in cosmic energy, and I find that when you are called to do something greater in your life and you have a passion for helping people, it does not come with money. And
Oh yeah.
that's just how it is, you know? Like I said, I'm an early childhood educator. I've been in this field for 15 years. The the feeling I have at the end of the day when I get through a really hard day and all the children are, reacting to the full moon or whatever whatever is happening, and it's just chaos. And I come home exhausted and covered in dirt and paint. I don't think like I didn't get paid enough for what happened today. I think like we all got through that day and those kids were loved and taken care of and honored in their big emotions, you know? So it's more than that. It's
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely. If it was about that, I probably would have been probably doing something totally different.
Yeah, you'd be making
But like I
movies.
said, I'm thankful for what I do, and
Yeah.
it's always just a constant reminder to just treat life as a gift. Like it's
Mhm.
not a game.
Mhm.
I know politically sometimes our life get treated like it's a game, but that's a subject
Yep.
for another day. But honestly, no, like we are people who do hurt, who
Mhm.
do need healing, who do have ups and downs, or so. Really, we all in the same boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't
I
matter
just
what financial status, we in the same boat.
exactly. Exactly.
I
You know what
got
I
look,
mean?
you know what? One of my favorite songs is Price Tag. I love that song when she says it's not about the money, we just wanna make the world dance, forget about the price tag. I love that
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.
And the truth be told is like this, like again, success is how can I say this? It's very subjective
Mhm.
because some people do count success as just money and this and that, but the truth be told, there's a lot of people who are doing some of the same stuff. You just don't probably see their names in limelights or you don't know who they are, but there are a lot of people who have successful careers. So I think that it's really more so what you make it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not about any of that stuff. There are a lot of lawyers out here that may not be big famous lawyers, but they're effective. There are a lot of filmmakers out here like myself that may not be famous, but we're being effective. So to
Yeah.
me, the fame and all that stuff really doesn't matter. I think as a business owner, you should promote yourself because that's what you have to do. I mean,
Yeah.
we owe that to ourselves, but you don't have to be all in the magazines and all this stuff to be effective. Like, if you do, well, that's okay. But honestly, being effective is more important to me.
I would rather affect someone directly. You know what I mean? Like that's what I strive for, and that's what I view as success is how many people have I connected with today? You know,
Yeah.
how many families have I connected with today? How many children's lives have I affected today? And with this podcast, having such a small platform and people are like they don't understand what I'm doing, and like I said before, half of the time I don't even understand it, but it's algorithms work weird. I see things in my feed that I didn't know existed, and if I can have one person listen to a conversation I'm having or listen to words that I'm saying and go like, "Oh my god, I have felt that and I don't feel alone." That is success to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because again, there's all type of tips and tricks that people can use to kinda let the algorithm favor them or whatever, but that's not to me, that's not as important. It's just about being effective, and again,
Yeah.
nothing wrong with promoting yourself because as a business owner, I mean, you have to because,
Mhm. Mhm.
ain't nobody gonna do that for you, but
Exactly.
but,
Exactly.
but I put it like this, but, everything ain't what people think it is, like, you don't have to you don't have to be the loudest in the room to be effective, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep. Yep. That's exactly it. Yep.
But what made you get into teaching?
I just I ever since I was younger, like probably around 12, kids always just kind of gravitated towards me. I don't know why. No matter where I went, there was always some sort of kid who would follow me around and I would just like talk with them. And it would always be so funny, because they just the way their minds connect the dots is hilarious to me sometimes. And everyone would say, "Oh, you should work with kids when you grow up." And I was like, "I don't really know." And then I did nothing. I did not I graduated high school. I just worked like retail my whole life. I had a child, and then we had an experience with a babysitter, and my son came home with like a big blister on his hand.
Wow.
And I phoned the babysitter and I said, how did this happen? And they were like, I don't know. And I was like,
Yeah.
how could you not know? Right. So the next day I quit my job and went back to school. It was my first day of like ECE school, for lack of a better term, was the day before my 30th birthday. And I just did it, and I was like, if I know that the children in my care are being well taken care of, then that's worth it for me, because at least
Absolutely.
I don't have to worry about the well-being of these kids. But the more you get into it, like, it's just, like I said, hanging out with kids all day is like some of the most fun you will ever have in your life,
You
because
know what? Kids are interested.
yes, they are, and they say the funniest things. And
It's very real because
yeah.
my grandmother and my aunt both are school teachers, and me, I was actually one of the students that was in special education. I'm not ashamed to say that I was,
Yeah.
and I had a different way of learning, a different
Mhm.
way of processing things, and so it was a bit of a challenge. But like I said, I got through school by the grace of God, and I wasn't one of the ones that got pushed along. Trust me.
Yeah.
It goes back to me having a great teacher because my
Yeah.
teacher, Miss Anderson, she was the one that called the funeral home, and she actually set that up for me. So I
Mhm.
thank God for it. And again, having a good teacher because, people don't realize this, but teachers are very important. And I'm always in support of teachers because, these are individuals who put their life and, put their all into hopefully making the next generation of people better. Training and it goes far beyond kindergarten and preschool because you have elementary school, you have high school, you have college. So I take my hat off to teachers. I ain't wearing my hat today, but I take it off.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Yeah. And it's so funny too how it's like my day job is like the beginnings of life and my passion project is the end of life, you know?
Yeah,
Like it's just it's such a different experience, but it is so similar at the same time, which I think is crazy because you never really think about that part either. Like there is
yeah,
so much of it tied together, and the more I talk about grief with other people, the more, in the back of my head, I'm connecting the dots, and I'm like, I go through lots of that similar experience in early life, in early childhood.
yeah,
The parallels are pretty mind opening, and it's really wild to see that like in real time
yeah.
almost.
And it's good. It's good to see communities talking about grief because
Yeah.
it affects all of us differently. We've all have experienced it, and it's one of those things, like I said, you don't really get over it. You
Mhm.
learn to manage and live through it, but,
Yeah.
we'll never forget our loved ones that have made that transition because like
Mhm.
I said, I still think about all of my family members, I think about them pretty often, it's just because it's like, wow, here and then no longer with us anymore. So, and I know all of us are one day gonna make the transition to the other side. So
Mhm.
it's just an awareness to just appreciate life and
Yeah.
appreciate people, and I'll tell you one of the things that really hit me hard working in the funeral business was there was a young man who we went to elementary school together. He was older than me, but me and his sister, we graduated elementary school together. And he was a funeral director and he worked with us and we ended up working at the same funeral home. And so this was like 3 weeks after his wedding, he ended up passing in a car accident. And that really shook us all up. He was like 30 years old or so, but I think about my friend Darius every day. I think about him. Like I said, it was really devastating. We went to elementary school together. It's like, so I don't know, like it really hits you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really hits you, and
Mhm.
it's something you never really get over.
Mhm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. I did an episode last season, was basically just me talking to myself with a microphone. And my uncle died in October, and I did an episode kind of honoring him. And I said in that episode that the scariest part of death for me is that you can't control it. You know, you have no control over it. You don't know when it's going to happen, and that's the part of it that really freaks me out. Is I I have kind of control issues in general. I'm a Virgo and neurodivergent, so it's hard for me to let go of things sometimes. But at the end of the day, like stories like that are kind of what I guess in essence brought me into the grief community because I am so scared of death because of situations like that, right? And, and that's why I want to do this. I want to witness things like stories like that. I want to hold space for stories like that because when when it is so unexpected.
It hits different. Yeah, like
Exactly.
my uncle, he came up here. He was living in Arizona. My great aunt Betty, I think she was kinda going through some ailments, so my uncle came up here to drive my grandmother and my 2 great aunts down to Alabama to check on their sister Betty, and when they got down to Alabama, they came back, and so I was at work, like, that Wednesday. My uncle was supposed to go home that Thursday the next day, and I was sitting at work at the funeral home at the time, and someone I knew called me and said, "Is it true, Wade?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, is it true?" Your uncle passed away." I'm like, "Huh?" I didn't know nothing about it. So I called my grandmother and I heard it in her voice and I was like very confused because like they went down there to check on my auntie, who was I think in her late 70s, and my uncle was only 50 something. But he made his transition and it was really unexpected, and
Mhm,
so to me, it's that was really devastating, and
mhm,
so like I said, it's something you never really get over. And that's why I always say like I tend to try to check on my family members, if I'm more like there are some people that I talk to a little more than text, but if I don't talk as much to people, I will at least text because I try to check in on people because it's important because once that time is up, it's nothing it's out of our hand. There's nothing we can do about that. But
right,
to me, it's just important to treat people right while they're here,
mhm,
to check
mhm,
on people while they're here, and not just because I don't know, like the world, and it's not just in families, it's just the world in general that for some reason we respond to tragedy, more than anything. It's very weird to me.
mhm, mhm.
I think that it's okay to celebrate people in the good times, not just because, and I've even spoke to people in the news media about this, like let's be real, I'm a Black American, and there are a lot of young Black talented Americans as well as Latino and other ethnicities who are doing great things, but it's like, we only it seems like we recognize tragedy more like if something bad happened to somebody, or this person got killed, or this happened, or, but why not just celebrate the good stuff too, I don't
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely, and, I I I really appreciate you bringing that up. Like I said, like, I really do try to use my platform to, like, raise voices up and raise communities up as well. Like, I had a conversation with a woman the other day, and it turned, like, so political, and I'm like, "Grief shouldn't be political." Do you know what I like, they're politicizing our grief even, and that to me is absolutely crazy. And, you know, it's a way to keep marginalized communities marginalized,
yeah.
And
But again, we become what we give room to because
yeah,
if you don't give room
exactly.
to it, it does the system does no longer work.
Yep,
So I
yep,
just think it's good for people to be aware and think for yourself. But ultimately, for me, I choose to have love in my heart for people. It
mhm,
doesn't mean that I understand that not everybody has the best intentions. And it's
mhm,
good to be discerning and to be aware as well. But regardless of that, it's still good to have love in your heart for people. Be aware, be wise,
yeah,
be
yeah.
vigilant, but still have love in your heart for people.
But we should have love in our hearts for everybody regardless of what they're going through. Like, why can't we
It's
have
true.
love in our hearts for marginalized communities on a good day? Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
and not just tragedy because that's
yeah,
what I'm saying, like, we're more than we it's like, I understand the news has to share what happened, but it's like there's so much good things that people are doing, but it's like the only time that you really recognize a certain people is in death or
Yeah.
committing crime and all this. Like, why does it have to be?
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
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 I'm pretty sure I don't think I could do that kind of work, but
No.
but I'm just being honest. Like, to me, there are talented people in this world that are of all ethnicities. Like, and so to me, I think that we should also learn to celebrate the good things, because again, in this world we live in, negativity sells more than positive things. And
Yeah.
it's just crazy to me because like if a person says something like crazy out the way, you're probably gonna go viral for it.
Yeah.
But a person seems like they talking and they got sense. Oh,
Nothing. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. No, that is so true. That is so true.
You have good and bad in every ethnicity. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what makes people who they are is what's in their heart. And
Yeah.
the way that they carry themselves, and if it's genuine, because anybody can put on a performance, but to me, when you're genuine and when you really do care about humanity and things, that's love, But
Yeah.
and again, that's why, like I said, like I understand there's a space for politics and things, but whatever political party people call themselves, you still should be a decent human being, and still treat everybody right regardless, because at the end of the day, you know I think one day people are gonna realize everything in this world ain't really what we think it is. But again,
Yep.
that's a subject for another day.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really enjoyed talking to you. I think this was like I had a really good time. It was like almost just over an hour. So yeah,
It's
that's
all right. Look,
yeah, no.
anytime you want to do this again, I got you.
Cool, cool. Yeah, no, we'll definitely keep in touch. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Thanks for
Okay.
having me.
Of course. Anytime. Come back anytime. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
So that was Wade Simmons. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. It was so nice talking to him. Yeah, I hope that you take a little piece of love and joy away with you today, and have a good day. You're not alone. You're a mourning person. Bye, friends.